Hey, it's TK11697, and today we're going to talk about the Walt's Trooper Factory TIE Pilot chest box. We're going to cover what should be included in the kit and some trimming. And then the next video will go on to assembly and the greeblies and stuff like that. For starters, you're going to get four plastic pieces, or four types of plastic pieces. You're going to get the bottom half, which you can tell it's going to have a flat surface up front. Top half of the box is going to have a sloped piece on top, and this sort of flat surface here is going to be your front there. You're going to get four of these end caps here. You're going to have to trim out of the plastic. They come in. And then you're going to have greeblies. Now you're going to have greeblies that come with the kit, and you're going to have greeblies that you might want to consider getting elsewhere. And it's not a problem really, or a dig at Walt for providing the greeblies. He provides adequate greeblies, but since this is a pretty low cost kit to begin with, and since we have the marvel of 3D printing and machined aluminum, you could really make your kit vastly superior to what comes out of the box. Now the plastic is just fine, and some of the things that Walt provides are perfectly adequate. I said this is a chest box made out of a mix of his pieces. I said this is my light up kit. I don't know if you can see the LED lights work on this, but they do. The kit does not come with the LED lights. I'll explain that later. But for example, I'll bring the camera down here. We've got, these are the greeblies. You're going to have, these are machined aluminum. They're from Elvis Trooper. And I don't even have a Walt's pair to compare them to, because honestly, the plaster ones that come with the kit are okay, and you could paint them silver, but the reality is nothing's going to look as good as machined aluminum. I think these might cost $15 for the pair. I'll have to double check that, but and I'll link the Elvis Trooper website in the comments for this video. You're going to have, these are the plaster lights that are on top. As you can see, I've got these. They're big. They're probably something like 22 millimeters, and perfectly all right. If you want to paint them, one red and one white, no problem. These are thinner ones that you could get 3D printed off of Shapeways from Wakabi. He does a lot of great 3D printed stuff. As a matter of fact, everything here 3D printed is from him. Or you can go with 18 millimeter light diffusers, which are actually meant specifically for LED lights. These are the ones that I prefer to use now in all the new kits that I'm building for people. Again, you can go with buttons on the chest box that go over here. These are a newer kind, and they're smaller. I just got these from Pedro, and I'm not sure what they're going on, but they're kind of tiny. The normal ones that you get are bulkier. They're like the size of like a Starburst fruit chew. They're a little too thick for my preferences, but you could grind them down. I mean, they're made out of plaster. If you have a belt sander, you could sand them right down. Or for a few dollars, again, on Shapeways through Wakabi, you get these thin ones here. They're pretty decent. See, I got two sets from here. The gears are the ones Walt provides, and they're pretty good. I had these 3D printed, but the reality is that I'm probably no longer going to do that, because the new mold that Walt is using is fantastic and just as good as anything you're going to get from Shapeways. So I'll be sticking with that. As with the buttons, these come as individual buttons. They're hollow on the inside, but I found that the plaster ones that Walt provides are fantastic. So I'll no longer be looking for buttons either. So I would definitely consider, or strongly suggest, upgrading the metal parts, which is this disc here and the jack. I think it's, no matter how much you paint plaster, the metal parts are just going to they're just going to look so much better. The buttons here are not a big deal. Like I said, thinner ones are okay, thick ones, I mean, nothing is going to prevent you from being 501st approved, but if you're going to put the light kit in, which is what I'm going to cover, I would suggest using these. They're about maybe $2 each with shipping. I got trays full of them. If you need them, I could always mail some out. And they're perfect. You just drill 18 millimeter holes in the top of your chest box, and you just pop them in. Actually, they got a catch on them, so they snap right in, and they're great. And I said the buttons, I would strongly either suggest sanding down the buttons that are provided, or just getting the 3D printed ones for a few bucks. And this is a close-up of the pieces here, but we'll go back to how it all is assembled. So, for starters, when you're trimming this, it's going to come looking like this. There's going to be a lip on the side. There's going to be a return edge over here and over here. Remember, this is your front, and your back is just a curve. The back, don't worry about it. It's going to be attached to the chest armor, so if you scratch it up a little bit, that's not going to be a big deal. As a matter of fact, we're going to cut out a little chunk of this. The visible area is going to be 2 inches from the bottom here. So anything above the 2-inch line you're going to want to keep, because you have to glue it to the top of the chest box. But up here it doesn't have to be a perfectly straight line because no one's going to see it. Just make sure you keep enough area up here to glue on. For the top part, for the sides, you could, if you want to take this off, you can. You really don't have to, because all you're going to wind up doing is putting these caps on the side anyway, and it's going to cover it up. I did not trim the sides down for this piece anyway, and as you can see, it's already done. That's not a big deal. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. It's more about placement on the sides, which I'll cover with the assembly. Trimming the top is a little different. Trimming the top, I'll show you this one. This one's better because I actually trimmed this one. I cut down the sides a little bit here because you're gonna have to attach the hoses from the pilot helmet here, and we'll go into different attachment options. But I cut them down a little bit. They normally look like this, got a little extra flash over here. So I cut these down a little bit. But the important thing is, from this line to here is 2 3/4 inches, and it's not. You're just going to want to have it so it's nice and lined up. So when you put this in, it kind of comes together like this, where 2 inches of the bottom is showing, 2 3/4 to this bend. Said from here to here, 2 3/4 is showing, and then you got the rest. So if you measure from here, from the very bottom here to the very top here, you have exactly 6 inches. And in that, you'll be able to put these on for the hoses, and that's the way it's all going to come together. So, and this part here, this is going to be visible, so you want to make sure it's nice and straight. If it's got a little bit of a bend to it, people are going to notice. Sometimes the way the armor's pulled is there might be a little return edge here that pulls inward. I would suggest keeping that. I think it looks a little bit better, but it's not necessary if you don't have it. So again, 2 3/4 here, 2 inches visible there. You're going to have 4 of these caps. 2 of them. Now, I like to do about, you see they're a little bit different in size here. And that's just something I noticed when I looked at other people's builds and I looked at some of the screen accurate stuff. It seems like the bottom one that gets the gear on it, that goes in the bottom piece, is a little bit shorter. So I said you put the gear on here, and that's pretty much the end of that. So I put this one to about maybe 3/4 inch in height, up to 1 inch. And I'm doing this one from 1 inch to about 1 1/4 inches. Not a big difference, but enough that you would notice it if you look at it up close. Now for these, they've got a nice little dimple in the middle usually. You just drill a hole right there, and as you can see, there's a hole in here. If you want to just drop a small screw in there, throw some glue on it, and then screw it in, that's it, you're done with those. These, you got to cut a hole in for the hose. Now these are the same as these. I just cut a hole in. And the way that you measure that out is you get a small Gatorade cap. You put it over here so that it's like this, right in the center. Take a marker and you draw around the cap, and you have, that's where you got to cut. So it's marked on here. And I've already cut this one. So for this cap, if you held this over the hose, this regular Gatorade cap over the hose, you find that it's exactly the same circumference, I think 35 millimeters or 1.5 inches. right over the hose. If the Gatorade cap could fit through here, the hose could fit through there. If you want to make it a little bit smaller so that you actually twist the hose in, and that's the way you plan on retaining the hoses, that's fine. But just, you know, you can cut it from the bottom of the cap because the cap itself flares out a little bit and gives you the good measurement. So you draw your line, you take either a drill or belt sander or razor or however you're going to cut it, and you cut out this hole. You're going to do it twice, you know, one for each end. You're going to do this twice with the gear, one for each end, and you're good there. Now, as for retaining the hoses, now if you, looking again, this is how it comes together. Before we go into that, there's, you know, gear there, here's the hole. Now, this is the first chest box I did, and I actually just shoved my hose in here, and it stays pretty well. It hasn't been a problem. I've since done magnetic locks, I've done pill bottle locks, and the pill bottle lock, the magnetic one's easy. You put magnet at the end of the hose, then you put magnets on the inside here, and it locks in. I used this once or twice because people did not want magnets. And when you have the top of a pill bottle, it gets screwed on to, I fabricated this out of plastic that comes with the kit. You put it in there. So I haven't trimmed this one out for it, but you put it pretty much like this in there. And then you shove this end of the pill bottle down into the hose area. When the hose goes in, it locks in. The hose comes out. You just twist the hose a little bit, and it comes out. It's one way to do it. The other way to do it is using very strong magnets and, say, a washer to screw it in. These ring magnets, I said, instead of the pill bottle, you would just have it like this. Then you put something metallic at the end of the hose, like a washer or something, secure it, and it stays in that way. The reason why I fabricate these is because I fabricate them in this style so that you could just kind of slip them in, glue them into the bottom here, you know, one on each side, slide the top over it, and you've got a great way to attach your hoses, if you want to do it that way. Again, just since this is my original kit, I just shoved the hoses in there, and actually they stay pretty good. As a matter of fact, I just shoved the hoses up in the helmet, and they stay pretty good too. There's really no exact need to be fancy about it, but if you want to impress your friends, that's one way to do it. Once you've got everything on, then we're going to start talking about putting greeblies on and stuff. If you look at the bottom here, there's a white line that goes across. That white line sticker is, again, this is 2 inches from top to bottom. It's just at the 1 inch mark, straight across. You can mark it with a pencil, something you could erase easily. We're going to cut the back, put magnets on the back to hold onto my chest, but you're going to cut a hole in the back so you get access to the insides. And the reason why you'd want to access the inside is because for about, I think, $18 to $20 is LED lights. 4 LEDs. You've got one 5mm red blinker, one 5mm white blinker, and 2 solid 5mm reds. They go to a 9-volt battery, and it's got a plunger switch to turn it on and off. I usually assemble and sell these. The reason why I'm doing 9-volt, because people have asked before about power banks. I've been using the same 9-volt battery in this box since April. It's run for almost 100 hours and has not failed. There's really no reason to use a power bank for these LEDs. They're not drawing that much power. So yeah, and it's a little cheaper that way too. I think it's $18 to $20. And that's if you just want to add LED lights to your kit. In the CRL, it says that you should ask your GML first, because I believe it's up to the GML as to whether or not he wants to accept the light box or the chest box with lights. Some GMLs, I guess, could tell you no, and then obviously you're not going to want to do that. You can still add them, I guess, just not turn them on, because the marks you're going to make, like the holes here where the so you got 2 dark holes here. So they got the lights on, but you can shut them off, and obviously they just look dark. And the top here, if they're not on, they're not on. I said it's no one would really know, but that's up to you. It's kind of a personal choice. When we go to assembly, I'll kind of explain the rest, but that should cover the trimming. Again, to recap one more time, bottom part, 2 inches from this bottom area to your visible area here. Just draw a line across it and keep this. Do not over trim your chest box. If you over trim your chest box, you could wreck it. This is what it'll look like with the sides glued on. And you can go ahead and secure the gears any way you want. You can paint them gray, silver, probably just gray and silver, maybe gunmetal if you wanted to. Top part, different. You're going to cover some of this with greeblies, but you want to make sure this is a nice straight line. You might want to put holes up here if you plan on putting lights in or snapping in the diffusers. But again, 2 3/4 here. This top part, don't worry. The whole thing, when it's together, what you're aiming for is 6 inches from top to bottom. That's what you want. Doesn't have to be that exactly, but that's what you should be aiming for. And the construction for people that do an AT-AT chest boxes will do it a little bit differently because they have exact measurements, similar measurements, but it's a little different the way it's set up. So I think that's it. And the next video will be about actually assembling the chest box and putting on the greeblies and maybe even adding the lights. And then that should be it. All right, until then.